So in this part we will see how material management process works within NAVBUILD. We will start with the indenting, or what some people call as requisition. So I will create a new request for indent. The number gets generated automatically. The requisition date gets filled. Specifying the project code, I can specify the start date and the end date to filter those activities which fall under this particular timeline. Okay, now system has filtered those activities which fall under this particular period, and I can choose which items I want to be able to plan my materials for. So let's say I want to take this activity called first floor and say I want to do 1000 quantity of this. Select, and maybe this activity another 500. Select this and say OK. As you can see here, what the system has done is it has retrieved the various items which are required to execute these activities which are specified. So this is what the site engineer should plan based on the activities which are coming up in the next week or next fortnight or next month, and decide the quantities to be executed. Okay, as you can see on the right hand side, we are showing the budgeted quantity which is for the item cement. This is the overall budgeted quantity, 21,681 bags, and what is available in open indents, about 4 bags are waiting to be approved or maybe to be released as purchase order. Next is open purchase orders, about 37.5 bags are waiting in the open purchase orders for the vendors to deliver. What is already received is 86, and what is transferred maybe from other projects, and finally what is the balance quantity which is available to indent. So the site engineer gets all the information which is required to justify this particular indent. System also has what we call as the item by location lookup, where it shows the item being available in which location. Okay, so in this case it is available in these two locations. And what I can also do is to see whether system validates my quantity against the plan. So instead of 9.09, I'm just going to put it as 22,000, which is definitely more than what is available to indent. System says you seem to be exceeding the tolerance available within the budget, and system will immediately change it to the color to red so that there is a visual warning available in the system. The site engineer may have a genuine need. If they want to go ahead, they can go ahead and submit, and it is up to the project manager to approve such deviations from the project budget. So the control of the project execution within the project budget is very proactive in nature. It gets implemented right from the requisition, and it gets carried on through various stages of your material management process. I can print this and keep a copy for the site records, or if people still use the hard copies for exchange between the site and the head office. This can be used, and I can post this, which means it is submitting for approval. Now I have basically submitted an indent which is waiting for the project manager to approve. I just wanted to take a few moments out of NAV to show you certain other modules available as part of our vertical solution. The first is what is called as a site module, where I have functionalities such as indent, GRN, material issue, and work order, which is MBook, the measurement book functionalities. Only those functionalities which are required by the site users are built on .NET as a web user interface. This is required because the sites may not necessarily have a decent bandwidth availability considering their remoteness. So we have developed this so that the users can come through a simple dial-up or a data card sort of a connection and do these activities. The information gets stored in the same database as the NAV database. Okay. So I can see the indents. I can create a new indent. I can see the exact validation which I have made there is also available here. So on. Okay, I can edit this, change the quantity or whatever, and submit this. Okay, so this is the way the site module can help in getting the data captured right at the source of information. So this is the quick intro about the site module. Next, I want to touch upon the Dynatext. This is a web-based tool again for configuring various alert business rules and being able to see the history of various messages. In this particular case, I can see that there are some messages which are sent as email as well as to certain mobile numbers, and this is about the availability of an indent waiting for approval. This is sent by the tool to the project manager so that they are aware of various transactions which are waiting for their action. So I will now try to trigger this particular alert for the indent which we just raised so that it goes to the project manager. Since I had kept this software open for a while, I think it has timed out, so I may have to log in again. So let me wait for the login page to come up. So I'm logging in with the username, password, and template master is the place where we actually define the template by which the message will be sent. So we can decide which columns we want to show in the template and who gets the SMS or the text message, who gets the email. All this can be specified. In this case, I have specified to be sent to a particular user. So in a production environment, this would be automatically scheduled to run, say, once in an hour or once in a day or whatever. However, since for the demo purpose, I am going to manually trigger this. I'm going to have option to send email as well as the SMS or the text message. The scheduler runs in the background and will frame the message and send it across. So I have configured the user SA to have this particular email ID, brucedavis@ctestech.com, and this particular mobile number. So as you can see, system has tried sending these messages, indent messages, as the text and email messages. So this is how Dynatext works. but this is only a sample which I have shown. This can be used not only for NAVBUILD, it can be used for any Dynamics NAV customers, and it could be for various scenarios. For example, only for purchase orders more than a particular value, say $10,000, you can set up an alert to be sent to the chief of purchasing or the CFO, or you can set up an alert whenever a purchase order which is expected to be delivered on such and such date, and if it has not been delivered, we can trigger an alert to be sent to the vendor so that it results in better follow-up. We can also use it to push promotional messages. For example, you can choose a list of customers and say we are launching a new product or service. So such on-demand messages are also possible. A third type of scenario is also possible where we can set up subscription rules so that we can say at the end of every day, I want to know what is the total billing for this project, what is the total cost incurred in this project, what is the total amount of purchase orders released for this project, so on and so forth. So any executive who want to get that summary information on their mobile phone can set up such rules so that it would automatically reach their email box or their mobile phone. So this is the advantage of Dyna Text. I will come back to our material management process. I'm going to the indent approval screen. I can see this number 64 is the latest one. I want to do a filter so that I only see the indent which I am interested in. I can see the same information what was available to the person who was indenting. So the manager also gets to see the various inputs which are required, and they can, there is a 3-level approval. Since I have set up this particular user to have all the 3 privileges, I am able to approve all these items. Okay, but we can set it up in a way that only the project manager gets technical approval and maybe somebody else gets the purchasing approval. We can change the labels also so that this is can reflect your particular organization's requirement. Now the indent is approved. Next it is time for us to create the request for quotation RFQ to multiple vendors so that we can compare. Okay, I have set up these 2 vendors to have an association of the items. It is important to associate a vendor with the items which they would be supplying so that we know what they are capable of delivering. This warning is telling me that there are open purchase orders with this vendor, and am I sure whether I want to release a new requisition with this vendor. We can choose to ignore this and go ahead and place the RFQ. So system will now create 2 requests for quotes for these 2 vendors. Let me go into the RFQ screen, locate the last RFQ. As you can see here, I can see only cement and sand, and let's see what happened to the other vendor. The other vendor also has only cement and sand. The reason why we are not able to see the other items which were actually there in the indent is because these vendors are not associated with those items. We need to associate various items which this vendor will be supplying. Okay, this vendor only has these items, and hence system has picked up only those items in the RFQ. Okay, now we can print this and send it across or email it as well. So this is the format of request for quotation. We are specifying this item, the quantity and the tax percentage, and the vendor has to fill in the rate at which they are willing to supply us, and various other details like delivery instructions, loading charges, unloading charges, transportation terms and conditions. So they can fill these and send it across. This RFQ can be emailed as well if an email ID is available at the vendor master. And next is, once we assume that the vendor has supplied us with the rate, we can fill in the rate and convert this RFQ as a quotation. So I'm going to say make quotation, and this will be converted as a purchase quotation now. Let me go to the last and say 266.28. So I have created now two quotations from two requests for quotations. I am in the purchase quotation screen. I go to the end, and this is the quotation which I have just received from the vendor. And again, I can print this and keep it for records and all that. The next logical step is to be able to compare these two quotations. First step, I want to release the filter so I can see all my quotations. I want to see them in a logical order. So what I can do is I can filter by the document number. Let me go to the end. So I can see the 58 and 59 are the two quotations to be compared. Let me filter by that so that we don't get confused by the other quotations available in the system. Okay, you can see there are two quotations, 58 and 59 are available, and I could see the quantity, the rate at which they have quoted and all that. The next step is to calculate weighted average. Why do we do this weighted average cost? Because the earlier budget versus actual control I showed you was related to quantity controls, whereas we also need to make sure that the project actual stays within the project budgeted value. In order to do that, as you all know, the purchases can happen with the fluctuating rates, and construction projects can happen over a long horizon of period. Could be 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years and all that. Now we need to account for the fluctuation in the raw material price. So what we do is we show the estimate which is available as part of the project budget and what the current rate this vendor has quoted, and including the historical purchases of this particular item within this project, system has calculated the weighted average cost, added the current vendor's quotation and arrived at the weighted average cost. And if this weighted average cost is less than the estimate, that means we can go ahead with the project. We are very well under the budgeted figures. If not, again system will do a red warning here, and we can see that we need to be proactive in our future purchases and so on. So this is a very important feature of NAVBUILD. Many solutions basically work on weighted average costing, but they do it across the projects. Our software works within the project weighted average costing, so that individual project profitability is maintained from a procurement point of view. And we can print this, and in a print you can see on a columnar format, which is side by side vendor data is given so that we can easily visually compare. Okay, so I am now ready to do the approval. Say this 266, this vendor is cheaper, and in this particular case the first vendor is cheaper. For the sand it is 24 and here it is 28. Now once I have approved, again 3 levels of approval. I have set up my super user to have all the 3 approvals, but in production environment we could set up various users to have various approvals so that only they will be able to click on that particular field. Once the approvals are done, we can straight away invoke creation of purchase orders. So we are now on purchase order, and this is the last purchase order which we have released, and for Hindustan it is only sand, and for the other vendor it is only cement. And again, I can print this or choose to email it if the email info is available at the vendor master. And this is the purchase order format available in NAVBUILD. Of course, it can be personalized based on the customer's format. Once a purchase order is released, then the next step would be to receive materials against the purchase order. I can pick up my particular purchase order and specify the quantity to receive. For example, if there is a short receipt, I can specify it. So the purchase order will be kept open for future receipts. I need to specify the invoice number and I can say post receive an invoice. The difference between receive and invoice is receive is when the inventory gets updated, and invoicing is when the party gets updated, meaning the liability gets created. I can decide to do both these activities together, or I can do them separately, because sometimes the site users may not know about various financial implications and they will only do the receiving, and the finance users in the head office receive the invoice from the vendor and they can do the accounting by verifying the tax details and all that. I'm on the next purchase order. And this is for penna. Today's date, and I can again say post receive and invoice, and system would have released the entire item, it received the entire items and updated the inventory. So let's take a look as to how the inventory is updated. Let me do a find of cement. Okay, I am on cement, and as you can see here, there's the 584. Let's see if I can sort this by item number and posting date, probably. Item number, posting date. Let me pick this and see what it does. Okay, let's go to the end. Here we go. As you can see, this is the latest entry I have made. Purchase receipt in location J0001 of 9.09 bags, and this is how inventory gets updated. So we have requested for the material, went through an approval, we initiated a request for quote with the vendor, we received the quotation, we compared it, we created the purchase order, and we received the material. And the next part is for issuing of the material, or what we call as the job journal. So in this case, I am going to say line type is contract, posting date is today, document number, job number, job task number, copy this. I'm looking for item, cement. The reason why we pick up the work order here is we want to know which items are used by which subcontractor, so that we can establish whether they have consumed within the budgeted quantity or not. Okay, so I'm just going to consume that 9 bags. System comes up with the unit cost and all that, and I can post this. Let me go back to the item master for cement and see if my sorting order is still there. Okay, let me see whether the starting order is still the same. No, it's not. Okay, I'm going to pick the item and the posting date. Let me go to the bottom now. Okay, as you can see now, earlier I had only the purchase record in 27th of March. Now you can see the negative adjustment, which is basically the material is issued to this particular job in this location, -9. Okay, so all the receiving entries are given in positive and all the consumption or issue entries are given in negative. So this is how a item ledger is maintained. So to summarize, we have completed the material management process, which is right from indent all the way up to consumption of a material.